Good evening, and welcome to our daily devotional reading. Let's quiet our minds, open our hearts, turn inwards, and listen to Plato. We're still reading from the dialogue Crito, and Socrates is still speaking. Now you, Crito, are a distinguished, disinterested person who are not going to die tomorrow. At least there is no human probability of this, and you are therefore not liable to be deceived by the circumstances in which you are placed. Tell me then whether I am right in saying that some opinions, and the opinions of some men only, are to be valued, and other opinions, and the opinions of other men, are not to be valued. I ask you whether I was right in maintaining this. Certainly. The good are to be regarded and not the bad. Yes. And the opinion of the wise, in the sense of sophrosune, not Sophia, so practical wisdom, are good, and the opinion of the unwise are evil. Certainly. And what was said about another matter? Was the disciple in gymnastics supposed to attend to and praise and blame and opinion of every man, or of one man only, his physician or trainer, whoever that was? Of one man only. And he ought to fear the censure and welcome the praise of that one only, and not of the many. That is clear. And he ought to live and train and eat and drink in the way which seems good to this single master who has understanding, rather than according to the opinion of all other men put together. True. And if he disobeys and disregards the opinion and approval of the one, and regards the opinion of the many who have no understanding, will he not suffer evil? Certainly he will. And what will the evil be, with attending and what affecting in the disobedient person? Clearly affecting the body, that is what is destroyed by the evil. Very good. And is not this true, Crito, of other things which we need not separately enumerate, in the matter of just and unjust, fair and foul, good and evil, which are the subjects of our present consultation? Ought we to follow the opinion of the many and to fear them, or the opinion of the one man who has understanding, and whom we ought to fear and reverence more than all the rest of the world, and whom deserting we shall destroy and injure the principle in us which may be assumed to be improved by justice and deteriorated by injustice? Is there not such a principle? Certainly there is, Socrates. Take a parallel instance. If, acting under the advice of men who have no understanding, we destroy that which is improvable by health and deteriorated by disease, when that has been destroyed, I say, would life be worth living? And that is the body? Yes. Could we live having an evil and corrupted body? Certainly not. And will life be worth living if that higher part of man be depraved, which is improved by justice and deteriorated by injustice? Do we suppose that principle, whether it may be in man, which has to do with justice and injustice, to be inferior to the body? Certainly not. More honor then? Far more. Then, my friend, we must not regard what the many say of us, but what he, the one man who has understanding of just and unjust, will say, and what the truth will say. And therefore you begin in error when you suggest that we should regard the opinion of the many about just and unjust, good and evil, honorable and dishonorable. Well, someone will say, but the many can kill us. Yes, Socrates, that will clearly be the answer. That is true. But still I find with surprise that the old argument is, as I conceive, unshaken as ever. And I should like to know whether I may say the same of another proposition, that not life, but a good life, is to be chiefly valued. Yes, that also remains. And a good life, the beautiful life, the other translation says, and kalos is indeed in the Greek, is equivalent to a just and honorable one. That holds also. Yes, that holds. From these premises I proceed to argue the question whether I ought or ought not to try to escape without the consent of the Athenians. And if I am clearly right in escaping, then I will make the attempt, but if not, I will abstain. The other consideration which you mention of money and loss of character and the duty of educating children are, I fear, only the doctrines of the multitude, who would be as ready to call people to life if they were able, as they are to put them to death, and with as little reason. But now, since the argument has thus far prevailed, the only question which remains to be considered is, whether we shall do rightly either in escaping or in suffering others to aid in our escape, and paying them in money and thanks, or whether we shall not do rightly. And if the latter, then death or any other calamity which may ensue on my remaining here must not be allowed to enter into the calculation. I think that you are right, Socrates. How then shall we proceed? Let us consider the matter together, and do you either refute me if you can, and I will be convinced, or else cease, my dear friend, from repeating to me that I ought to escape against the wishes of the Athenians. For I am extremely desirous to be persuaded by you, but not against my own better judgment. And now please to consider my first position, and do your best to answer me. I will do my best. Are we to say that we are never intentionally to do wrong, or that in one way we ought and in another way we ought not to do wrong? Or is doing wrong always evil and dishonorable, as I was just now saying, and as has been already acknowledged by us? Are all our former admissions which were made within a few days to be thrown away? And have we at our age been earnestly discoursing with one another all our life long, only to discover that we are no better than children? Or are we to rest assured, in spite of the opinion of the many, and in spite of consequences, whether better or worse, of the truth of what was then said, that injustice is always an evil and dishonor to him who acts unjustly? Shall we affirm that? Yes. Then we must do no wrong? Certainly not. Nor when injured, injure in return, as the many imagine, for we must injure no one at all. Injure no one at all. Endure all. Clearly not. Again, Crito, may we do evil? Surely not, Socrates. And what of doing evil in return for evil, which is the morality of the many? Is that just or not? Not just. For doing evil to another is the same as injuring him. Very true. Then we ought not to retaliate or render evil for evil to anyone, with the evil we may have suffered from him. But I would have you consider, Crito, whether you really mean what you are saying. For this opinion has never been held and never will be held by any considerable number of persons. And those who are agreed and those who are not agreed upon this point have no common ground, and can only despise one another when they see how widely they differ. Tell me then, whether you agree with and assent to my first principle, that neither injury nor retaliation nor warding off evil by evil is ever right. And shall that be the premise of our agreement? Or do you decline and dissent from this? For this has been of old and is still my opinion. But if you are of another opinion, let me hear what you have to say. If, however, you remain the same mind as formerly, I will proceed to the next step. You may proceed, for I have not changed my mind. Thus far our scripture for the evening. Crito is not a very long dialogue, and so the various days are a bit shorter than usual. First, again, honoring Socrates for his ability to stand firm in his views, even in the face of death. He makes it sound so easy and so as if any adult will do such a thing. And at the Socrates Cafe 2 or 3 weeks ago, one of the ladies said something that I resonated with, that being an adult is taking responsibility for your own life and for who you are. And I like that. But what also came to mind as I was reading this is John's saying, I don't know if he got it from somewhere else. I do apologize, John. He's very big on quoting all his sources. So, but I would, yeah. Anyway, the saying, as the child is to the adult is to the sage. And it feels as if Socrates is displaying here more sage-like qualities than merely adult qualities. Because there is, of course, another man who said the same type of thing. Jesus of Nazareth. And he too is known as a sage. To whom should we listen? It is quite a big thing, of course, today, in today's world, that so many people have opinions and so few people have actual knowledge. And the people with mere opinions tend to be much louder than those with knowledge. So I will share with you what I have done and what I am doing. And maybe it's silly and maybe it's very idiosyncratic and no one else will benefit from such an approach to life in the present age. But I find it I found and still find it quite helpful. Around 2018, I finalized my studies in Jungian psychology, depth psychology. I went to Jerusalem, to Israel, to wrap up, to be initiated the process. And then I met Jordan Peterson. I met him before, but then I met him. And through him, he introduced me to John Vervaeke. And what I've done since, John became my Socrates. And his dear student, his beloved student, turned friend, Christopher, became my Plato. And after following John for about a year, maybe more, I decided that he will be my soul teacher for the coming 3 years. And I've only watched things that he put online. Yes, of course, clips for 5 minutes or so I would also watch in between of other people that are in line with him or popped up on my feed. But mostly it was only John. And that commitment opened extraordinary doors to me. I got to meet John a number of times. I got to participate in dialectics into Dialogos weekends that he and Christopher run. I met extraordinary human beings through these weekends and through the Vervaeke Foundation. And I've been quite changed as a human being. And I think I like myself more for that. But the 3 years ended, and I knew I had to step away not only from John as a teacher, but from everything and everyone. Officially, I kept, wherever possible, I kept my bonds with the people, which has turned into friendship, deep friendship, over the course of the 3 years. Then I flailed, is that a word, around for about a year, maybe less. I was still watching John when he had a appearance with Alex O'Connor, and I was quite impressed by the young man. So I started watching his videos, and through him I found Joe Foley. And I've been following Joe for about a year, and I have now decided that he's my new teacher. So that is what I do. I choose people after careful inspection to learn from. People whose opinions I know I can trust. And poor Joe will probably be overwhelmed by hearing that he's my teacher. He's still a very, very young man, a boy compared to me. But Socrates tells us in a later dialogue that we should not hesitate to learn from anyone who knows more on a subject than we do. And he knows his shit. He's a brilliant, brilliant boy. Also, I wrote down advice. Who are you seeking for advice? And his channel's name is Unsolicited Advice. It's funny. And of course, if I were to write my own story, and not only my part in, but the characters that enter my life, I would write myself a teacher called Folly. It's just perfect. From Socrates to Folly. Though in my mind he is something of a young Aristotle. I do not have a time limit set for Joe as a teacher. I might follow him until he stops. I might follow him until I lose my passion for reading. Or I might follow him until he enters a path that goes against my better judgment, which I do not foresee happening. With my good friend Sarah, we often talked about how to direct our lives and our focus, and I would say choose your loves wisely. But also in this, choose your advisors wisely. To choose your teachers wisely. There's a lot of noise out there. But there's also a lot of knowledge. And so much beauty. It's so much to be learned. May the learning journey be beautiful, and may we live towards depths that are beautiful and true to who we want to be, sage-like, as far as possible. Until then, let's hope it's a while. I do like life after all. I hope you have a good night's rest. And may the spirit of Sophia be with you.